Hey folks, I'm Dennis. Thanks for watching my video. Well, I wasn't really planning on doing a drywall repair video, but this morning coming out of the back door I tripped, and in order to avoid face planting into the side of my wife's car, I decided to face plant into the wall next to the door. So actually that's my hand. I went through the drywall with the butt of my hand. So anyway, now I've got a nice hole that I've got to repair. I'm going to show you a way to patch a hole like this that makes a pretty strong patch and finishes pretty well. Thanks for watching, and let's get this hole patched. This hole really only measures about 4 inches either way. However, when I stick my finger back here, I've busted the gypsum out back to another inch or so. So after I've kind of taken into account for that, I've decided I'm going to cut a 6-inch square patch. I decided that 6 inches would get it. I need about 1.5 inches margin around the patch for the paper I'm going to use to help blend it. So I just happen to have a piece of 6-inch by 6-inch scrap piece of plywood in the shop. You could use anything as long as you can get a perimeter. You could use like a Tupperware container, a piece of cardboard, you could cut to size, whatever. Just something that'll give you a template to go off of. What we're going to do is we're going to mark this off, cut the hole out, and then the patch that's going to go in there I'm going to cut just slightly smaller. Doesn't really have to be perfectly square or anything like that. You just want to kind of make sure you got good margins around where your patch is going to be. So my damage is out to here. I want to make sure that that's covered up to here, and make sure that that's covered. Over here is fine, and then down here is fine. So as long as I've got those covered, I'm okay. So I'm going to go with it about like that. Normally I use a pencil, but I don't have a pencil on me. I got a pen, so that's what I do. You can use your straight edge if you want to make it a little bit easier, but usually with sheetrock it's not too hard. Just be careful, especially if you're going to use a utility knife. You need something like that. You see I'm doing this, you just kind of keep scoring it until you get through. And you don't want any damage around here because we're going to use that to support the patch. I moved my camera outside because it's a little bit lighter than it is in the garage. So I've got my little 6-inch piece of wood. Like I say, you don't really have to have that. Piece of cardboard, piece of paper for that matter. Most walls in the US are 1/2 inch thick drywall. So what you need is a piece of 1/2 inch drywall that is bigger than your patch. In my case, my patch is 6 inches square. You want about 1.5 inches of margin around the patch for the face paper. I'll explain that in a minute, but since I've got a 6-inch patch, I need 1.5 inches all the way around it. So I need a 9x9 square piece. You can buy small pieces of drywall at your building supply stores, at least your big box stores. I think they sell them in like down to 2x2, 2 foot by 2 foot squares, so you can cut out what you need. Here's the way drywall works: is you've got a lighter paper on the face, which is the outside. That's the part that you want to see. And then you've got a craft paper on the back, which is brown. So making this patch, we're going to retain some face paper. So we're going to mark out the patch on the back paper and then cut it out. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. You just want it to be, relatively centered. Like I say, you want about 1.5 inches all the way around. I'm going to take my pen or my pencil and I'm going to mark off my patch. Now I want to cut a little bit inside of these lines because I want the plug that's going to go in the wall to be a little bit smaller than the hole, so I don't have to force fit it and end up breaking the drywall more. So I'm going to cut about 1/8 of an inch on the inside of these lines. That way I've got some wiggle room, to get it into the hole. So I'm just using this as a straight edge, and I'm going to go about 1/8 inch inside of my line here, and we'll score it all the way across. Come down here and get it again. There. So with drywall, it's easy. Once you cut that back paper, you can just pop it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to peel that off and keep that face paper. Okay? We're going to do that all the way around. You just want to be careful not to tear that face paper. So that's the patch. This is the front side. We've got paper all the way around it, and then that's the plug that's going in the hole. Now I'm going to take the patch and take the patch and make sure that it'll fit. What you want to do is take your putty knife or your taping knife, whatever you're using, and make sure that that plug is not sticking proud of the wall. You want to make sure that it's going to go in there flush. The next thing you're going to need some joint compound. This is a 3.5 quart. You don't have to get one that big. I think you can buy it in quarts. You might even be able to buy it in pints. I don't know if a pint would be enough to do a patch like this or not, but this is definitely too much for this. I've got some sheetrock work I'm doing in the basement, so I just happen to have a 3.5 quart jug of it. At a minimum, you're going to need a couple of putty knives. That one won't really do you a whole lot of good, that 1.5 inch one. That's a, I don't know, 3-inch one, I guess. That's okay. I prefer to have a wider one, you know, maybe at least a 6-inch blade to do a patch this size. I happen to have a wider one. First thing you're going to do with your mud is mix it up really good, and then you're going to spread some, hopefully without dropping too much. You're going to spread some all the way around the hole, because you want to embed the paper, that face paper that we left, you want to embed it into this mud around the hole. And we're going to end up squeezing most of that out, but you got to have a good layer of this under that paper so you don't get blisters. And you can be kind of sloppy around the edges, doesn't matter, because we're going to put more in there anyway, and we're going to scrape, we'll squeeze most of it out. What most people don't tell you to do when they're showing you a patch like this is to go around the perimeter of the plug and butter that real well with your joint compound. What that does is that helps seal that plug in there. It also helps prevent blisters, because the one place you're going to get them doing it this way is where the gap is between the plug and the wall, if you don't have joint compound in there. But if you've got joint compound squeezed in there like that, it's going to squeeze out, but it'll leave the gap full so that the paper can't blister between the plug and the hole. So we're just going to go around and spread that in there like so to fill that up. So every time you hear a splat, you know that I've got a place I got to clean up, because I've just dropped about 3 big globs of it. Getting all the way around. Now I can put the thing in there. We'll put this in here like so. Get all that paper kind of stuck down. Then you can take your narrow knife and a little bit of joint compound on it. You're just trying to get the paper stuck down. That way we know we've got it kind of stuck down all over. Spread all over this. Basically make sure I've got these edges mudded. Then I'm going to take my taping knife, and I'm going to start kind of running mud all over this whole thing. I got to tell everybody, I am not a sheetrocker. This is a DIY job, okay? You pros don't be taking stabs at me. I'll be the first to tell you I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just patching a hole. So I've let the joint compound dry overnight, and now I'm going to sand it. Now I've got drywall hand sanding block that I've got some drywall sanding mesh on. You don't have to have anything like that. You can, they make drywall sanding sponges. You can just use a piece of sandpaper on a wooden block. I know I'm going to put a second coat on, so I'm just going to try to knock off the high spots, and then I'll put a second coat on, and then that should take care of it. This is the second coat, and basically you just take it and spread out with the widest knife you've got. Now I've got a good coat. You can see none of the paper is showing from the patch like I had before. So I'm going to sand this down, and then I'm going to put a third coat on it, and I'll be able to come back and lightly sand it, and I'll be done. The sanding mesh that I've used on the first two sandings of the patch is they call it medium grit, but it's like 120 grit mesh. You don't have to use mesh, you don't have to go buy special sandpaper, you can just use any kind of sandpaper, but I would do my first sanding or two with something in the neighborhood of 120, and then you can use like 150, 180, something like that for your fine sanding, your last sanding coat, or sanding your last coat rather. I've got a drywall sponge that I use for the final coat just to smooth it out. It's also fine. It's probably 150 grit, thereabouts 180, but it'll let you get into the corners without sanding through to the paper, things like that. It's just a little more convenient. If you have one, great. If you don't, just use sandpaper on a wooden block. But the idea is to just get it kind of smooth and then let it set, and dry for maybe a day or so, and then you can come back and prime and paint it. Thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it. Hopefully you don't trip and fall into the wall and knock a hole in it like I did, but if you do, or you have a hole that gets knocked in the wall, this will help you fix it. Hope to see you back soon. Please give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and God bless you.